Starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar, Finding Opportunities on Site. My name is Nicole Brice and I am part of the EcoBiz team and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. This webinar is the final webinar in a series of 5 that step you through the EcoBiz process. It will include practical advice on how to identify opportunities on your site that will not only save your business money but also improve your environmental performance. Today we have a very special guest, Rob Kneebone from the APP Group Specialist Building Products.
Hello Nicole, thank you for inviting me here today.
Rob is the Managing Director at AP Group and has been actively involved in business sustainability for over 4 years. So Rob, would you like to start by briefly telling us a bit about APP Group?
ABP Allboard is an Australian-owned company based in Brisbane. Our manufacturing facility is located at 12 Micah Street, Carroll Park, and we employ about 40 staff. We produce visual communication products, wet area joinery, including toilet partitions and lockers, commercial office furniture, and office greens. We also value-add fibre cement sheeting, that sort of thing. We produce a high-quality product for the Australian market, and we're a strong supporter of Australian-made and vital campaigns. We became involved with EcoBiz back in 2010, and since then we've implemented a few different things.
Thanks, Rob. The intention today is for Rob and I to talk for about 30 minutes. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. You can answer or enter your questions into the text box that you have on the screen at any time during this live presentation. Rob and I will do our best to answer them. You should also receive a follow-up email after today with a recording of this session and a copy of the slides we will be presenting here today. In today's webinar, we'll be looking at the different motivations and drivers that prompt a business to want to identify and implement eco-efficiency opportunities. We'll discuss the many avenues businesses interested in identifying opportunities can explore. We'll then look at the very important task of prioritising opportunities in regard to financial as well as environmental gains. And finally, we'll look at the process of turning an opportunity or an idea into action on the ground. The reasons why your business wants to identify opportunities will strongly influence where you focus your efforts and which opportunities offer the most benefits for your business. For many businesses, the driver is simply to save money. For these businesses, the financial payback period is really important. If you haven't already done so, I strongly recommend listening to webinar 2 on understanding your bills to ensure you know exactly how much you are currently paying for water, energy and waste, and where you need to focus your efforts if saving money is the top priority. Other businesses simply want to do the right thing by the environment and are looking for opportunities that not only make good business sense but also improve their environmental performance. If you have already prepared a baseline to measure and track your current water and energy consumption and waste generation, then this task is a lot easier. If you're unsure how to do this, then have a listen to webinar 3 on developing a baseline. For many businesses, public image is also very important and in some cases gaining a competitive advantage. These might be environmentally or ethically minded customers or perhaps just other businesses in your supply chain who require their suppliers to meet a certain environmental standard. If this is you, then it's important you know that opportunities that are likely to appeal to your customers. If labelling, for example, is important, then consider the credibility of the organisation issuing the label. You might like to investigate the EcoBiz Star Rating Program, which acknowledges businesses that make 10% savings in water, energy and waste. Including and valuing staff in the process of identifying and implementing opportunities is not only vital to the success of the opportunities, but it's also a really effective way to improve staff morale and workplace health and safety. For many, this is just an added bonus, but for some, programs to improve environmental performance and workplace efficiency can really help to bring about a positive change in the workplace culture. EcoBiz Webinar 1 about gaining management support and finding a champion is really interesting and a well spent 30 minutes. Funding, well, there never seems to be enough of it, but when fundings and grants become available, some businesses want to be ready to maximise the chance of getting a piece of the pie. Often they will implement those opportunities with a strong business case first, and then perhaps they'll leave the others to move forward on when some additional funding becomes available. Finally, the driver may well be because your business is currently experiencing problems with environmental regulators or is struggling to meet the environmental requirements set by local, state or federal government. You may even be concerned about future requirements that may be placed on your business. For some businesses, the motivation may have the result of an environmental incident, and they may simply be wishing to reduce their risk or liability. I should mention here that partners of the EcoBiz program are actually eligible for a 10% reduction of their environmental licensing fee. Now, Rob, could you share with us what were the initial drivers for the AP group to identify and implement opportunities, and perhaps also how these drivers have changed over time?
Thanks, Nicole. I guess a key motivator was to save money. In our particular industry, energy and waste have been very high. So by being eco-efficient, we can improve the business's bottom line. And also improving the environmental performance, along with good quality assurance, is also a way of staying competitive in the market. We compete in a marketplace that is heavily reliant on imported goods, so any point of difference helps us when it comes to tendering time. We tender a lot of contracts, and so when we can produce the same good quality product, with 30% energy saving from a renewable source, and also that 80% of our business waste is recycled, hopefully when all the tenders are sat on the table, that's what puts ours forward, especially when we do a lot of government tendering, so hopefully it's in line with the government ethos, and then they look at our tenders more favourably.
Yes, I think you're right, Rob. Demonstrating good environmental performance and practice is becoming an increasing focus of the tendering process. So where to start? I think your staff is probably the best starting point. They really are your business's greatest asset when it comes to identifying opportunities. If you have a champion or even just a team of enthusiastic individuals in your business, it can really help to motivate and drive the process of identifying opportunities. So one of the most successful ways to get staff involved is to provide a suggestion box with incentives or rewards, even such as movie vouchers. The Australian Food Corporation, for example, offer Bunnings gift vouchers. As you can see in this slide, the suggestion to use recyclable batteries actually saved the company $4,000 annually, and it probably would have been overlooked if it wasn't for the staff member whose job it was to inspect the equipment volunteering this suggestion. Other businesses like to get staff involved in group meetings where staff can focus on a particular problem and brainstorm ideas. Don't forget to include contract staff, so people like cleaners or even service providers who work in isolation to your other staff. So Rob, how do you encourage your staff to get involved in the process of identifying and implementing opportunities?
Nicole, we're a family business, so we're very fortunate that we've had a very stable and long-term workforce with very low absenteeism rates. And over the years, we've had probably half a dozen second-generation people come through. Their fathers have worked for us, mothers have worked for us, and the kids have come through and have done their apprenticeships. Currently, we have one of our estimators. His son is doing his first-year cabinet making apprenticeship with us. So we have a good understanding that good staff are a long-term investment, and we focus on mutually beneficial relationships. So if the business succeeds, then the staff succeed. And what's good for the business is also good for them. And this understanding helps to keep the staff when times get busy, which is very important in our line of business where workloads constantly peak and trough. Part of making staff feel valued and trusted is supporting and enabling their ideas to help improve the efficiency of the business. So an example is we get strapping. That product comes in from our suppliers, has a plastic strapping around it. the guys cut the strapping, they bundle the strapping up, and then we reuse the strapping to strap up our goods as they go out for dispatch. This not only saves on reducing waste going into landfill, but it also reduces the cost of whatever strapping that we would have to purchase. This is one of the initiatives that we've implemented, and there's many projects that the staff have come to us with that we have implemented. There's also some that we've implemented but haven't been successful. All the time, the guys do different things, and we listen to everything regardless of what we think of the idea, because if you encourage them to come forward, they're more likely to come forward, and especially if their idea is taken on board, regardless of whether it's good or bad. The good ones keep going, and the bad ones, well, they just sort of peter out. Monitoring is one of the difficult things. It's still required, and we need to ensure that the staff do the right thing when it comes to implementation of initiatives. For example, we have a wood recycling program that if steel is put into that bin, or aluminium put into that bin, or plastic put into that bin, and results in contamination, we get a backcharge. So we have to keep toolbox talks going so that the guys know, they understand the reasoning behind that this product goes into the bin. We alert them to the fact that this is what it costs, that different costs between just dumping in general waste and dumping into the right bin. And at the end of the day, the staff understand that if the business is, if it's good for the business, it's good for them. So a champion certainly can help, and we have had champions over the time. We currently don't have a champion at the moment, and it's very difficult because if you do have a leave, it's very hard to replace a person. So the momentum can really slow down or really stop if there's no one to fill their shoes. That's basically how we do it, Nicole.
Thanks, Rob. You mentioned that you often on the workplace floor. One of the easiest ways to identify opportunities on your site is to undertake a site walkthrough. This involves walking through the entire site looking for very obvious signs of waste. To help you know what to look for, EcoBiz has developed a very user-friendly site walkthrough checklist, which is discussed in a lot more detail in webinar 4 on how to undertake a site survey. Other sources to help you identify opportunities include your service providers. Consider if you could make energy, water or waste savings a requirement of their contract. During the drought back in 2007, many businesses included making water savings a part of the performance contract of their cooling tower service providers. In addition to this, many water and energy service providers now actually offer assistance to businesses looking to become efficient. Talk to your suppliers. For example, you might have a supplier for chemicals who might be able to supply your chemicals in bulk and then reduce the packaging, or perhaps they could install a dosing system that would avoid unnecessary expensive chemical waste. Try to get involved in industry networks, or even find out if your industry association has been doing anything in this space. There is a huge amount of information on the web. Sometimes it's hard to get through it all. Make sure you visit the EcoBiz website, where you'll find fact sheets and locally relevant case studies on possible eco-efficiency opportunities. Similarly, industry magazines often include stories of innovation. Look, if you don't have the time or the technical expertise, perhaps you'd like then to consider the benefits of an external specialist to find and cost out the opportunities. Although we do tend to encourage sites to take on the work themselves, and this encourages ownership. Finally, if you can look at the data you've collected from your bills along with any other monitoring data, say for example meters, sub-meters, or if you've been fortunate enough to undertake a detailed site audit, you can closely examine where exactly you're wasting resources or generating unnecessary waste. And often it's not where you expect. And having this level of understanding really helps you to focus your efforts. Rob, can you walk us through some of the opportunities implemented at ABP Group and how they were identified? I think the listeners would be really interested in some of the learnings you've made along the way.
Thanks, Nicole. We've implemented a lot of things over the years, but a few that I can outline. We currently reside in a modern facility, about 15 years old, and when the facility was built, we had elsenite strips on the roof to allow for natural light to come into the workshop. Over the years, the elsenite has deteriorated, so about 4 years ago, we replaced the elsenite. That meant that we weren't running the lights all day during winter, and we weren't running them for half the day during summer. The initial cost was about $8,000, and it saves us about $4,000 annually on the power bills. This was something that was relatively easy to achieve. It was just a case of getting some quotes, and they came out, they installed them, no upset to the workflow or anything like that, and it just means that we get that initial saving relatively quickly. While we're still on electricity and energy, we're currently in the process of installing a 9.5 kilowatt solar power system. The reason we're doing this is, for starters, it'll future-proof the business. If everyone you talk to complains about the cost of electricity, and it's no different for us. So by investing in this now, we will receive the benefit of reduced a 20 to 30% reduction in total power consumption over the next 20 years. We also receive the renewable energy certificates or energy credits, which are help to reduce the cost of the solar system. We're getting the 20 to 30% total power consumption, and there is also the opportunity to reduce the power demand charges. And power demand charges, for those of you that don't know, are basically a penalty for not wasted electricity but high usage electricity. So we currently use between 300 and 400 megawatts of electricity a year, and the demand charges are the half an hour period at the highest point of the month. So the reason that the electricity companies charge you for this is because they say that, well, we have to provide the infrastructure for when you need that amount of power, so you need to pay it for the entire month. And even though we don't know what the reduced power demand will be once we put solar panels on, we do know that within a short period of time we will be able to determine what the demand charges are. Also, the fact that we turn on equipment and lighting when it's not in use, and we allocate responsibility to a staff member. Our next project, after we've got the cells in, is we're going to look at a power management system, and that's something that's hooked up to our meter, and it will alert us to when demand is getting high. So we'll set a figure of, say, 100 kilowatts, and when it starts to hit that for the half-hour period, then we will be able to go, all right, what are we going to do to reduce that? Are there some machines that we can turn off? And it will monitor it through text messages, and it'll be sent to certain people in the business that will be able to make those decisions. The other thing we've done is we use an energy broker, and that energy broker helps us. It's not so much a saving for electricity, but it does save us money in the fact that it gives us the ability to negotiate our power rates, and they all have a bill checking service. They can download all of our usage from the meter once a month, and they can check it against the bill, and they can find savings. They can find potential savings in billing, incorrect billing, and those sort of things. What we've learned from these things is to ask a lot of questions. Talk to your suppliers. How we got onto the solar system was that I started talking to some small system installers. We've got a system at home, so I talked to the bloke that installed that, and a couple of mates who are involved in solar panels. So they've said that this costs for a 30 kilowatt system, which was the largest system that they could do. And then we got head around those costs, and then that's when we've gone out to the marketplace, got some quotes in, and started to look at what system is best for us, the differences between polycystylene panels and monocystylene. All of this was just got from talking to people, and we've been lucky that we've been able to talk to a lot of people that are willing to spend time answering questions without expecting remuneration. The other options that we've looked at is how we finance it, and there is a deal through Clean Energy Finance Corporation that offers secured loans on the depreciating assets such as solar panels, which a bank wouldn't necessarily secure against. And the CEFC has a co-finance. They've got some money from the federal government that has a co-financed scale that is 50% at a reduced interest rate and 50% at the standard secured rate. So there are opportunities there for financing, and you just need to talk to your bank. Another project that we've done, and this is one that we've concentrated on for a long time, and is consistently a work in progress, is waste recycling. The cost of dumping product is horrendously expensive. So what we've done is we've put in cardboard recycling. Cardboard's a light product. It takes up a lot of space, and we pay $54 for a 4 cubic metre bin to be dumped for general waste. And so by dedicating bins of cardboard, they can be collected, get taken by JJ Richards to Visiboard, and we pay $9 for a 3 cubic metre bin. This is a massive saving because it doesn't take long to fill a bin full of cardboard when you're using, all the boxes that come in from your suppliers, all the packaging, all the recycled paper, all those other bits and pieces that take no time at all to fill up a bin. The second thing we've worked on is a wood waste recovery program, and all our particle board, MDF, solid timber, pallets, all those things go to up to Ipswich. They're shredded, and then they're carted up to Gympie and used in a burner to create electricity. Now, that reduces our dumping. We fill 2 27 cubic metre bins a week, which is about, say, 7 or 8 tonne roughly. They cost us $140 to $160 to dump, opposed to costing $700 or $900 per run if we were just dumping it into general waste. So this is a massive saving for us, and we've been very lucky that we've been able to be incorporated into this program, and hence the reason, going back to earlier on, you need somebody to really champion that, because if you start putting steel in there, it's very easy. Not only do they charge you back, charge you the steel out, but they also, if you do it too often, they'll just say, no, we can find somebody else that's going to do the right thing. We recycle our steel. Maybe we get $100 per month for it. Steel we don't use a lot of, so it's not a high thing, but it's better than going to landfill. Aluminium, because we use a lot of aluminium extrusion, which is excellent quality aluminium, we get paid a premium for it. So if we recycle our extrusion, it's a saving that we wouldn't have to dump it into general waste, but we also recover some good money for offcuts that we would otherwise just be throwing out. Aluminium cans are a different story though. They don't pay good money for aluminium cans because of poor quality aluminium, so they go into another bin and the guys do whatever with that. I'm not sure what they do. I just know that they go into a different bin and the money goes to wherever. Laminate offcuts is, we use a product called compact laminate, which is not able to be recycled. We do the best we possibly can to get rid of this, but unfortunately some of that needs to go to reverse garbage. In West End they take a little bit and the rest of it goes to general waste. Reverse garbage is a business that takes industrial waste that they can be reused for artists or schools for projects or different things like that, and they're down at Boundary Road and West End. They supply us 4 wheelie bins per month and collect once a month, and it takes us about 2 hours before we filled those wheelie bins up for them for the next time. So we try to do a little bit recycling there, but the majority of that product goes to general waste, and this is where I say it's a work in progress, because we are looking for possible projects for the future that people might find it useful, rather than us having to dump it at $135 a tonne. Then there's the plastic strapping that I spoke about before. We reuse it to pack our goods, dispatched goods, and that reduces the amount of strapping purchased and also the strapping going to landfill. With the 5%, it's another product that if we're cutting or value adding the product for a customer, we supply the offcuts back to the customer purely just to reduce our waste bill. But unfortunately, some of those offcuts need to go into general waste, and so we're also opportunities there where we can potentially recycle that product. But unfortunately, it's very difficult. Some of the things we've learned over the years is that if you initiate your discussions with your waste contractors for possible alternatives for your waste, then they're the best place to start. That's the game they're in. They can give you all the help that you ever want, and we've looked at our bills and we're focused on priority areas, and we tend not to take on too much. We take on a small project and we keep chipping away at it, and that's how we achieve the environmental credentials and the recycling and the sustainability of the business.
Thanks, Rob. Look, you mentioned that typically you're flat out running the business, and I guess this all seems quite overwhelming sometimes. So I think we should look at now how to help make that decision making a bit easier. How we can prioritise which opportunities really will be the most beneficial and feasible for a business. A good first step is to divide them into 3 key categories. Firstly, Rob, as you mentioned, there will be opportunities on your site such as turning off equipment and lights when they're not in use that will cost you nothing or very little to implement, but that could save your business considerable amounts of money as well as benefiting the environment. We call these low-hanging fruit. They don't usually require specific technical skills, but it does require a workplace that is motivated and willing to change for many of these opportunities to truly be successful. It makes sense to target these opportunities first. This is particularly so if you need to demonstrate the benefit of becoming eco-efficient to other staff or to upper management. Some opportunities you identify will of course need more resources to implement, and that's when you really have to start thinking carefully about how you evaluate these benefits. These we refer to as invest to save options. We'll look at how to calculate a payback period for opportunities in a minute, but firstly I'd just like to briefly discuss the waste minimisation hierarchy. As you can see, the waste hierarchy prioritises opportunities according to what's best for the environment. It gives top priority to preventing or reducing waste in the first place. Here you're really thinking about all the resources that go into making a product in the first place and trying to stop the waste being generated initially. Unfortunately, some waste is unavoidable or it just can't be reduced, and the next best preference should be given to opportunities that reuse it on site or perhaps by another business or an organisation nearby. The next best option for waste is to recycle or to recover material and energy for waste, as Rob was talking about with his timber. Of course, the least preferable option for the environment is to dispose of waste to landfill. Right, now you've broadly categorised and prioritised your opportunities on cost and their impact to the environment. Now let's take a closer look at how you might determine just how feasible or practical an opportunity really is. Here we have a very simple EcoBiz template which is available on the website for undertaking a preliminary assessment of an opportunity. Can you tell us, Rob, about some of the things you think are important to consider before turning an opportunity into an action?
Thanks, Nicole. If we use the solar power system as an example, some of the things we thought about are, firstly, the OH&S implications of the project. Are there any issues for our staff? Well, panels being on the roof, everything being up high, there's not really anything from that side of the perspective that is going to cause too much grief in the installation or anything like that, because it's all done by contractors. They've got all the right equipment to do the job as they're doing it all the time. But one of the things that we did identify was that the inverters would have to go on the wall close to our main board. Now, because we have forklifts running around, we were concerned that the inverters, first of all, could be damaged by a forklift. Second of all, the forklift, if they hit the forklift could be damaged, and also there could be an injury to the forklift driver. So part of the scope for Hembros, when they're carrying out this installation, was to build a cage around the inverters so that somebody could work inside if they needed to, any maintenance required or anything like that, and also that the inverters were protected from any knocks or anything like that. The next thing was the system and what maintenance the system required. So my concern was that the panels would need cleaning, but apparently they have a technology that coats the panels so that they only need a clean once every 5 years. But one of the things that we do need to do is that we need to ensure that the connections are checked so that they don't heat up, or they're a bad connection that they start or somebody gets electrocuted. Often another thing is that often a project will affect production, so in some way, and then you have problems with customer expectations. With the solar panels, we have set down that over the 4 weeks that they are installing, there is only going to be a half day right at the end when they have to connect the solar panels into the mains power, and that will be, we're going to make we're going to run up a press release. We're going to explain to all of our customers that on the Friday we'll be closing down at lunchtime, and we will be then flicking the switch sometime that afternoon after it's all connected, and then come back Monday morning, and as of Monday morning, 20 to 30% of the product that we're putting out has been made with a renewable resource in electricity. And hopefully through doing that we get some exposure with customers we might not have already had, and also we might get some exposure in the local paper. We also looked at the environmental performance as discussed previously, with a reduction of 20 to 30% in electricity consumption, plus all the associated greenhouse gas emission savings, of course. Unfortunately, one of the problems for us is that we cannot sell the renewable energy back to the grid. The grid, they don't want to take it, and this has cost us an additional $20,000 on some power management software, that when the business is not using everything that the solar panel produced, the inverters will start to shut themselves down. So if we're only using 70% of what we can produce, then the inverters will only be running at 70%. So on the weekends, we might be running at 3, 4, or 5%, but the inverters will only be producing 3, 4, and 5% of the power. And there's no opportunity. We've spoken to our energy suppliers, and there's no opportunity whatsoever that we could sell the power back to the grid, because when we're not using it, they don't want the extra capacity. In this case with the solar panels, we're certain that the opportunity will work. We're not sure how much we're going to reduce our sudden peaks in demand, but that's something that we know that it will do something. How much it'll do, we're not entirely sure, but within a month of having the solar panels switch over, we will be able to start looking at the data and working out what our next step is, and how we can reduce the consumption every more. When it comes to timing, the project probably amounted to about a week full time. When you tally up the talking on the phone, the researching on the internet at home, I know it's a lot of time when you work long hours, but if you're just chipping away at it, we have you'll be surprised at how much you can achieve. I found that the greatest amount of time was spent trying to raise the finance. It took a couple of months as we weren't putting any collateral up to security. But I only found out last day about the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. So unfortunately we weren't able to take advantage of it. But at least by me explaining it today, hopefully somebody else that wants to go down that path, they might have the opportunity to do it. And as for expertise, well, it all just came down to asking a lot of questions. You know, everything we do, we try to do it ourselves. We have a lot of good staff that have technical knowledge, and all of those staff have people that they can call on to ask questions. So we've asked plenty of questions. We've got a whole heap of technical expertise that we could call on, and it wasn't the case in this particular project, but sometimes you might need to get a expert in to help with your project. But in this case, it wasn't necessary, and experts can tend to be expensive. But we found just talking to suppliers and service providers was a good option for our case, and but you just need to remember that when you're talking to somebody that is trying to sell you a product, the advice that they're going to give you is, fair chance it's going to be directed in their favour. We were lucky. The company that we chose was they were had a lot of experience, and they weren't overly biased in their favour.
Thanks, Rob. There's another very simple EcoVis tool on the slide here to help you calculate your payback period. Rob, you very kindly completed the table for the solar opportunity. Can you please explain the process and once again share with us the sort of things that you think are important to consider when you're looking at financial viability?
Thanks, Nicole. You can calculate the payback period for a project by calculating all the costs and then all the savings. This tool then divides the cost by the savings and multiplies it by 12 months to work out how many months it's going to take you to pay back your investment. It's important you consider not just the initial capital costs, but also any additional costs, such as maintenance, costs for servicing, and recalibration, and so forth. Materials such as fuel, chemicals, labour for maintenance, and also the fact that you might need to train staff. Equally important is working out the savings. Sometimes this is difficult if you haven't kept good consumption records, but it's important to remember that an opportunity may make you savings in one resource, but also savings or costs in another. For example, if you installed a reverse osmosis water treatment system, you might make a huge saving in your water consumption, but at the same time your energy bill will most likely increase, and you will need extra materials such as membranes. In this case, you will need to really think about what's more important for your business. In most cases, however, the saving of a resource in one area leads to the saving in others. For example, if you can find a way to reduce the amount of hot water you use for cleaning, then not only do you reduce your water consumption, but also your energy bill. Thus, the important thing here is to remember is that if you change one aspect of your business, other areas are likely to be affected. In the case of eco-efficiency, usually in a positive way. As you see, our solar project will take almost 60 months or 5 years to complete. Now that may seem like a long time, but the reality is that the loan we have taken out is for 5 years. The savings we make in electricity will cover the repayments, and thus while I may not make an immediate saving from the solar system, in 5 years' time the price of electricity will be even higher. We will be in a much better position.
Yes, I think you're right, Rob, in that increasingly eco-efficiency is all about increasing your business's resilience. Perhaps making it happen is the hardest challenge of all. Often it's not until it's on paper and allocated to a person with resources that it does actually happen. Once you've got your shortened list of opportunities, you can prepare an action plan that divides your actions into short, medium and long term, as we discussed before. And this template is once again available on the EcoBiz website. It's really important, if you can, to divide up the responsibility of implementing opportunities amongst your staff. And secondly, also important to remember that if the initiative is going to affect other sections of your business, then it's important to keep those people in the loop and make sure that they're included in the discussions. If the initiative involves some sort of change in work procedures, make sure you involve the relevant staff in determining why and how the changes should be made and provide the training that's necessary. Once you've implemented your opportunities, it's really important also to monitor your progress and report that back to the staff and management. This can be a way of graphs showing consumption, maybe in the lunchroom notice board or a newsletter, or if you don't have a lot of time, perhaps information and praise shared at a toolbox talk. It's really important that you make sure you recognise good performance. I know of one company that holds a barbecue every Friday after work for its staff using savings from eco-efficiency initiatives to the point that the staff even grow their own salads for this barbecue on site. Also a school who donates half the savings to a charity while the other half is reinvested in further eco-efficiency opportunities. If you're an SME, struggling to stay afloat is a very competitive market, and sometimes these savings merely mean that you can remain competitive and that you don't have to retrench staff. Rob, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, thanks. Everything's okay at the moment, but we have been through some very difficult periods over the last, as with many businesses, over the last few years. During the GFC, we needed to look for any little savings that were possible, and the staff were made aware of this. So, fortunately, for us and for the staff, unlike many other businesses, we were able to keep all of our staff on, and we have a very open policy where if we're going to make a decision, we explain the decision to the staff. So if we want to reduce something, so say it was the electricity usage, we want the lights turned off, why we explain to the guys this is the cost, and they understand that if we can save that $4,000 a year, well, that $4,000 a year potentially goes back towards their employment, so that things aren't as tight. We don't need to say, all right, well, we've got to, it's slowed down, we've got to let this person go or let that person go. So it all comes back to if the business is successful, the staff is successful, and if the staff is successful, the business is successful. And even though there's a lot of businesses, we employ a lot of people. We're very proud of employing a lot of people, and it's not just about profit for us. We've got some staff that have worked for us for coming on to 20 years, and their livelihood, just as our livelihood depends on them, and their livelihood depends on us. So that's basically our story. Nicole?
Yes, it certainly appears more and more that doing more with less is the way to go. Now, I think we'll open up the floor for questions. I've got one here from Sophie for you, Rob. So she asks, how did you decide which solar provider to go with? You hear a lot of scary stories in the media about dodgy panels and companies.
Well, we went out to the market. We got 5 quotes in. Those quotes came through a website that provides solar quotes, and 2 of those quotes came from people that we tracked down ourselves. The company that we ended up going with was a company called Hembros, and the reason that we went with them, They were not the cheapest. They were the most expensive. They were offering a good quality product. They were offering a reasonable turnaround time, but they were very forthcoming with all of the little bits and pieces that we could possibly be up for when it came to pricing, whereas some of the other companies had just given us a price, and when we questioned them on why this wasn't included or why that wasn't included, it all became very, not murky, but we didn't feel comfortable. So anyway, we went with Hemrose. We played them on price with somebody else, but at the end of the day, we'd made a decision to go with Hemrose prior to actually submitting a purchase order to them. But on the same token, we wanted to get the price as low as possible for us. So that's how we chose Hemrose.
Okay, that's very understandable, and sort of related to our next question from Richard, and it's a commonly asked question, and is there any funding for sustainability initiatives? I wish I could answer that more positively, but unfortunately not at the moment. EcoBiz website will notify you when grants or programs do become available. So I think at the moment, I guess it's what Rob's done, just looking for the low-hanging fruit and implementing opportunities which make a good business case. Also ensuring that you're ready with your consumption monitoring and research to ensure that you can actually put up a good case if something does become available. And EcoBiz is here to help you do that and really wants to support you in that capacity. Okay, another final question, Rob. I think our time's nearly up. Another one about solar. If you have you looked at connecting your solar system to a battery bank, seeing as you can't sell the power to the grid, and how feasible is it?
Yes, we did look at a battery pack, but the only thing that the battery pack would do for us, we can't store enough electricity in the pack to power the whole shed. The only thing that we would be able to do is save power there, so that when the demand is creeping up, or it's a overcast day or something like that, we'd be able to draw on those batteries to reduce our demand. At the moment it's extremely expensive, and we're going to, once we've got the solar in, then we'll get the power management system in place, and then batteries would be very long way down the line in our case, but other people doing a different thing might find that their batteries are perfect for them. So we did look at it.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Rob. I was looking at this the other day, and I think the most recent research shows that the batteries cost about, when you take in all the maintenance and so forth, about 20 to 30 cents a kilowatt. So you really need to look at it from a business case. That at this stage, however, having said that, they really are improving at a very fast rate. So in summary, today we have looked at the different motivations and drivers that prompt a business to want to identify and implement opportunities, the many ways that a business can start to identify opportunities, how they can then prioritise these opportunities in regards to financial and environmental gains. We then looked at how to initially assess the feasibility of an opportunity and how to calculate a payback period. We looked at how to actually make an idea come to fruition by developing an action plan. And in conclusion, we discussed the importance of feedback to staff and continuous improvement. The tools and templates and webinars that we've been talking about today are available on the EcoBiz website, along with loads of other resources such as fact sheets and case studies. EcoBiz also has some workshops coming up in the next couple of months where you can get some more assistance on reading your bills and developing a baseline. And also don't forget that the program offers free one-on-one coaching sessions with a sustainability expert. So if you are wanting to get started, I really encourage you to contact CCIQ and book a coaching session. So in conclusion, thank you for participating in this webinar. We hope that you found it useful, Thank you, Rob, for sharing your expertise and experience. It's good to see how much benefit the APP group has derived from their sustainability initiatives.
Thanks, Nicole, and thank you for having me on. Pleasure. And just for everyone out there, we are not necessarily any better at sustainability than anyone else. It's just that we have found these projects and we've identified a need, and then we've worked through, and these projects that we've done, everyone else is capable of doing. There's no expertise required whatsoever. Thank you.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Rob. And also thanks to everybody that sent in questions. If you have any more questions, please send them through to the EcoVis team and we'll endeavour to answer them. This webinar will be available on the web site shortly, and the presentation will be emailed to all participants. Thank you.